During this strawberry or horror moon, we come together on the land of the Western Abenaki people to worship as the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. While studying the special relationship the Abenaki have with this land, we come to realize our responsibility to nurture the young plants around us so that we may enjoy the sweet berries to come.
Good morning, and welcome to this beautiful, almost summer morning to the Sunday morning service of the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. Tonight, around 11:30, is the summer solstice. It marks long, warm days and much promise for abundant gardens. It is perhaps my favorite day of the year. My name is Steve Meyer. I'm a member of this congregation, and this morning I'm serving as worship associate for a yearly service in celebration of the CVUUS choir. Today's service is called Choir Favorites. It's all about love. Our choir director, Lucy Tenenbaum, and many other members of the choir will weave their words, music, and other magic throughout today's service. Whether you come every Sunday, occasionally, or are with us for the very first time, we're glad to see you here at CVUUS. If this is your first time attending a service with us, please contact us so that we can share more about who we are and what we do, and so that we can learn more about you. And everyone, please join us for Zoom coffee hour immediately after the service. We at CVUUS find many ways to connect with one another in addition to Sunday services. The best source of information on pathways to connection is the weekly blast published via email on Wednesdays. There are several timely opportunities I would like to mention. First, today, there will be a congregational conversation led by Reverend Barnaby on anti-racism in the American flag. A recent effort to have the American flag displayed at CVUUS provides a case study to explore the implications of adopting the proposed 8th UU principle, calling on us to, quote, accountably dismantle racism and other repressions, unquote. So Reverend Barnaby will be in one of the breakout rooms after this session if you would like to participate in that conversation. Next Saturday, from 9 to 5 p.m., come enjoy the flavors of Mexican and Central American dishes cooked and served by the Viva El Sabor Culinary Collective. They will be preparing the dishes ahead of time in our kitchen in the lower level at CVUUS and bringing them to the Marble Works to serve outside near Flatbread on the green area between Flatbread and the river. It's from 5 to 9 p.m. I wouldn't advise being late. The food is supposed to be tremendous. And then also I wanted to mention that UUA General Assembly is this week. It is the annual gathering of Unitarian Universalists from around the world, where we explore the underpinnings of our faith and lean fully into our mission and principles. GA 2021 is a 100% virtual event, and this year happens this coming week, starting on Wednesday through next Sunday. Registration is required. There are some free portions of GA, but you still need to register. And if you would like to attend the full GA, the registration fee is $200. Let us know if you might need financial assistance that is available. A few note of thanks as we begin. In addition to Lucy and the CVUUS choir, I would like to thank our stream team, Margie Young and Rich Wolfson, and Abby Sessions for managing the Zoom room after the service. Now, Brett Millier will introduce the call to worship.
Good morning. Our call to worship this morning is from the poem Transcendental Etude by Adrienne Rich. An etude, you probably know, is a study, in this case, a piece of music designed to build particular musical skills. The poem as a whole is actually set in Vermont, but this excerpt is built around metaphors of studying music. No one ever told us we had to study our lives, make of our lives a study, as if learning natural history or music, that we should begin with the simple exercises first and slowly go on trying the hard ones, practicing till strength and accuracy become one with the daring to leap into transcendence. Take the chance of breaking down in the wild arpeggio or faulting the full sentence of the fugue. And in fact, we can't live like that. We take on everything all at once before we even begun to read or mark time. We're forced to begin in the middle of the hardest movement, the one already sounding as we are born. Everything else seems beyond us. We aren't ready for it. Nothing that was said is true for us. Caught naked in the argument, the counterpoint, trying to sight read what our fingers can't keep up with, learn by heart what we can't even read. And yet, it is this we are born to. Thank you, Lucy. Let us worship together in music.
And joy, justice and joy, the fruits of our labors are justice and joy. Justice, justice, we'll build a land of justice. Joy, sweet joy, joy, sweet joy, we offer our thanks for the wonder of joy. Justice and joy, justice and joy, the fruits of our labors are justice and joy. Justice, 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 we'll build our labors of justice and joy. Joy, sweet joy, joy, sweet joy, we all build our thanks for the wonder of joy. Justice and joy, justice and joy, the fruits of our labors are justice and joy. Justice, justice and joy, we'll build our labors of justice. Joy, sweet joy, joy, sweet joy, we all build our thanks for the wonder of joy. Justice and joy, justice and joy, the fruits of our labors are justice and joy. Justice and justice, we'll build our labors of justice. Joy, sweet joy, joy, sweet joy, we all build our thanks for the wonder of joy. Justice and joy, justice and joy, the fruits of our labors are justice and joy. We'll build a land of justice. We'll build a land of justice. Joy, sweet joy, joy, sweet joy, we offer our thanks for the wonder of joy.
Good morning. My name is Marjorie Carson and I'm a member of the choir, and I'm going to describe some of the music that you have heard and that you will hear. The round you just heard, Justice and Joy, is by Amanda Udis Kessler. She's a very talented musician, writer, and composer from Colorado, and she is the founder of a website called Queer Sacred Music, which I strongly recommend. There will be some other songs of hers, rounds, and hymns that you will hear later in the service. She not only makes beautiful music, but she shares these lovely songs freely particularly with church choirs, and also in another way she shares them freely in that she does not charge for them. After I speak, you will also hear another very different piece of music. It's partly in the Lakota language. It's called Miniwachoni, which means water is life in Lakota. It was a song that was inspired as a tribute to the Standing Rock Sioux tribal members and others who gathered to protect land and water from the Dakota Access Pipeline. And it also refers to the interconnectedness of all beings and all things. The person who wrote the song using these concepts and this language from the Lakota was Sarah Thompson, and I think you will find it a beautiful piece of music, one we found challenging but worth the trouble. Thank you.
All my relations come, every nation come, all my relations under the sun, we are one. We are praying, come, we are praying, come, we are the song and we are the drum, we are one. We are the river, come, we are
now, Marjorie and Lucy will lead the chalice lighting. Marjorie will read the first half, and we ask everyone to join with Lucy for the second half.
Beloved community, we pause this morning from the chaos of the world to reclaim the beauty within these walls that carry us through our week.
We lift this community onto our shoulders with pride and grace-filled expectations for our children and our children's children.
Good morning. When my kids were little, we used to listen to songs on long car trips, including a bunch of songs by Raffi. One of those songs was De Colores, which you were about to hear. De Colores is a Spanish folk song that has been around for at least 400 years. Like any good folk song, it has lots of versions because people write new verses for different situations. You will hear the choir sing mostly in English. The verse that we sing in Spanish talks about the colors of the countryside in spring and of little birds from outside and the colors of the rainbow. Raffi's version also has a verse about roosters, chickens, and hens making different noises. Christian groups like to sing verses about God and Jesus and divine grace. De Colores is also important to the United Farm Workers, which is a group of people who work on the fields in the Central Valley of California. It was a favorite song of Cesar Chavez, who was one of the founders of the union. Just this past March, on what would have been Cesar Chavez's 94th birthday, Jill Biden and the governor of California visited a farm where Chavez worked. And as the two of them took a tour, a recording of De Colores played in the background. I invite you to sing along. You can choose the harmony line or the melody line or switch back and forth just for fun.
Son los pajaritos que vienen de afuera.
Good morning. I'm Larry Vanderberg, a member of the CVUUS congregation and choir. This simple piece has a lot packed into it. Rob Eller Isaacs, co-minister of Unity Church Unitarian in St. Paul, Minnesota, wrote this piece originally as an atonement in which we confess our shortcomings and resolve to correct them. In its original form, it was written in the first person singular, which gives it an intimate power. I forgive myself and others and begin again in love. The version in the UU hymnal is written in the first person plural, which gives it a collective power. We forgive ourselves and each other. It is written in the form of a litany, with a simple phrase used like a mantra, whose meaning is amplified with each repetition. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For the selfishness that sets us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Each month, we donate part of our offering to an organization whose work represents our values and principles in the wider world. This month, our offering is shared with the Festival on the Green. The festival returns this year to the Green in early August with a reduced but fabulous lineup. I invite you to give as generously as you are able to support this local treasure. We've come to the place in our service where we have an opportunity to share milestones and passages in our lives. I've got 3 here this morning so far. First from my wife, Priscilla, who got a lovely note from Susan Humphrey, a former member of the CVUUS choir. In 2009, Susan set up a music scholarship at the high school in memory of her son, Dan. She thought that the program had run its course, but then she got a thank you note recently from Baxter Harrington. It turns out that there was just enough left for 2 scholarships this year. So Baxter is going to music camp for a month this summer. This is happening just in time for Ann Severy's retirement after decades of music leadership at MUHS. We remember Dan from the days when Eric's first band practiced in our basement. He was also Brian's saxophone teacher for a while. It's nice to know that Baxter is a beneficiary of this gift in Dan's name. The recipient this year is Conan Pasiak. Also from Margie Young, she says, I wept tears of gratitude to hear about the change in the US policy around people fleeing gang violence. Santa Ana, a Honduran refugee who has been sponsored by a young adult from CVUUS and who we have supported with our donations, now has a much better chance of remaining in the US in safety with her daughter. And a yellow card from all of us. Excitement about the long overdue recognition of Juneteenth as a federal holiday. We're all looking forward to seeing how Middlebury celebrates it in future years. Always, there are unspoken joys and concerns. Now, Kate Gridley will introduce our musical meditation time that we hope will encourage you to be in touch with what's on your hearts and minds today.
Hi, this is Kate Gridley. Good morning. I grew up in a house obsessed with choral music. Among many things, my father helped start the Berkshire Boy Choir, which brought boys from all over the country, from rural areas to inner cities, together for a summer of choral singing and training by some of the great European choir masters from Europe. They swam and hiked too, played outside, and the entire summer, plus travel, was paid for. The concerts were glorious. He also helped start the Berkshire Choral Institute, and there are folks at CVUUS who have sung at BCI. We sang with the Canterbury Choral Society in New York. In fact, first year out of college, living back down in the city, I joined right back up with them, because when you sing with people, you make new friends. Of course, growing up, I had also sung in every school choir I could find during my education, from a tiny a cappella madrigal group to an enormous choir of several hundred at Lincoln Center for the Berlioz Requiem. Choral music wafted through my childhood home and car, and the same was true in John's and my home and car. Our son, Angus, in fact, sang so much as a child. We had to institute a dinner rule: no singing until dessert. Singing was and is in the air. Whenever I hear Dona nobis pacem, which means grant us peace, I am transported to the place where the pure, clear sound of boy choir pierces the air. And then I am inside the musical moment that is happening now, either participating or listening. The vibrations inside and outside, my heart swelling, my ears opening, myself hoping for peace. And it's not just the words that give the meaning here. We all want peace, always. We all want peace. The message is actually embedded inside the very music, which is a round. This beautiful and simple melody that has been sung now for over 500 years. When sung at different intervals, it becomes a round. You need more than one person to achieve this, and the more people involved, the more deeply encompassing the round becomes. When a group of people sing together, when they breathe and open their throats together and emit sounds so basic as to be cries, this is an act of profound connection, of trust, of intimacy, and of sharing. The bond of shared voices is strong. Each melody line is a path. We can walk the path alone, but we can also walk it together. If the paths are slightly different, we make harmonies. At least that is an option. And I can't think of anything more beautiful. I think that there is peace nestled right inside the harmonies.
Good morning. I'm feeling like I'm having a bit of an out-of-body experience because normally in the choir, we're in the sound and behind the sound and making the sound, and it's just so much fun to be able to watch ourselves and hear the music all integrated. This has been really enjoyable. Next, we are going to sing All of Us Are Loved. This is another piece by Amanda Udis Kessler, who we learned about earlier. It has 3 verses. The first and third are the same and are in English. The second conveys the same idea in Spanish. The words ring true with our UU values. The English words are, all of us are loved. Each of us is welcome. No one is a stranger. No one is an outcast. No one is alone. Everything we do when our hearts are grateful and our lives are faithful makes a better world, one that we can call everybody's home. My favorite part of the Spanish verse is the last line. Vamos construyendo un mundo mejor, lleno de color como una flor. That means we will construct a better world full of color like a flower. It reminds me of how beautiful the flower arrangements were last Sunday during our flower communion. Ironically, we recorded this in isolation when we were apart in our COVID-safe spaces during the pandemic. But the song reminds us that even when we're stuck at home, we're connected to and cared for by our larger community. Let's hear All of Us Are Loved.
All of us are loved. Each of us is welcome. No one is a stranger. No one is an outcast. No one is alone. Everything we do, when our hearts are grateful and our lives are faithful, makes a better world, one that we can call everybody's home. Juntos por amor, cada quien precioso, nadie es un extraño, nadie es invocado, nadie es sin calor. Cada paso fiel, con virtud y gozo, vamos construyendo un mundo mejor, lleno de color, como una flor. All of us are loved. Each of us is welcome. No one is a stranger. No one is an outcast. No one is alone. Everything we do, when our hearts are grateful, and our lives are faithful, makes a better world, one that we can call everybody's home.
The words for our next song, Immortal Love, are a poem by John Greenleaf Whittier. He was a Quaker and a powerful voice for human rights through much of the 19th century as a journalist and pamphlet publisher, an editor, and of course also as a poet. Whittier was an ardent abolitionist, and he held a deep belief in the equality of women, and his prolific writings were inspired by a curious mixture of a sturdy and unwavering moral compass with the colorful folklore of rural Massachusetts. The contemporary composer Elizabeth Alexander has set Whittier's poem to a beautiful melody with a modal four-part harmony that reflects her childhood immersed in the music of Appalachia. It may remind you of early American hymns. One fun advantage of our having had to compile our individually remotely recorded contributions is that our instrumental quartet of flute, viola, French horn, and bassoon is able to join our voices as we sing for you Immortal Love.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to see your faces and know that you're enjoying this, my last service here at CVUUS. The next two pieces are again composer Amanda Eudes Kessler. I want to speak of her again because her rounds gave us music we could relate to and record without too much effort. Having our recording done in January for the rest of the choir season gave us a chance to explore a lot of the choral music in the hymnals and other choir resources at our weekly Zoom gatherings during the winter and spring. We had some fun. Bound to Love was introduced in March at the same time as the canvas of a very similar theme, Bound for Joy. Clearly, it was great minds all thinking along the same lines. Spirit of Justice will be the last Amanda Eudes Kessler piece in the service. It comes Next, and I hope after listening through it once, all of you might be tempted to sing along with the choir. For choir in this format is surely best with your real-time participation, of course, with your mute buttons on. We all found this one sticks in the brain, didn't we, Steve? Here we go.
Bound to love, bound to each other, bound to serve, bound to give, bound to care one for another every day that we live. What do we bring to show our love? What are the gifts that are ours alone? Body and spirit, heart and mind, making a world where all are whole. Bound to love, bound to each other, bound to serve, bound to give, bound to care one for another every day that we live. What do we bring to show to each other? Bound to the gifts that are ours to give, body and spirit, one for another, every day that we all are home. Bound to we bring to show to each other, bound to the gifts that are bound to give, body and spirit, one for another, every day that we all are home. What do we bring to show to each other? Bound to the gifts that are ours to give, body and spirit, one for another, every day that we all are home. Bound to we bring to show to each other, bound to the gifts that are bound to give, body and spirit, one for another, every day that we all are home. What do we bring to show our love? What are the gifts that are ours alone? Body and spirit, heart and mind, making a world where all are home. Spirit of justice, spirit of kindness, you have called and claimed us. We will follow, follow in your way. Ours is the work of justice, ours is the path of kindness. Spirit of justice, spirit of kindness, may we live your dream. Spirit of justice, spirit of kindness, you have called and claimed us. We justice, spirit of kindness, follow in your ways. Spirit of justice, spirit of kindness, ours have called and claimed us. We will follow, follow in your ways.
Hello, my name is Neil Chippendale. I'm a member of the congregation and a member of the choir. Today, I have a couple of tasks to talk about. The first of which is the fact that it's Father's Day. Father's Day has been celebrated around the world for hundreds and hundreds of years. For the Catholics, it was the festival of St. Joseph. Other cultures all have had some sort of Father's Day, or actually what might be called Forefathers Day. The current form in the U.S. was done in the early 20th century, where it settled on the third Sunday of June as the day to celebrate our fathers. This has become standard for much of the Western Hemisphere. It's different in other parts of the world. New Zealand and Australia celebrate it in September. So there's a lot, but it's also about forefathers. And this day is one where we think about ourselves. I'm coming to you from my daughter's music studio in Ambler, Pennsylvania, where she taught remote orchestra all winter long, if you can think about that one. And so we were here with my son-in-law and me, and we're celebrating, or they're celebrating our Father's Day. But for me, Father's Day also has another meaning. In 1993, my own father was in a nursing home and was not doing well, and our family agreed, all my siblings agreed that we were going to meet at the nursing home to honor him on Father's Day. And when we got there, we realized that he was not in good shape. So as we were with him during the day, slowly he passed away. So for one thing, it was nice to have the whole family there for his passing. It was kind of appropriate in one sense that it was on Father's Day. And I just think about this past year. This is the first time I've been to my daughter's house since Thanksgiving of 2019. A lot of people passed away during these COVID times, and they were not surrounded by their family. They were surrounded by people totally gowned up in mass who they didn't know. So it's a time, but it's also a time when we learn that we really need to help each other and support each other. And that brings us to our last choir song of the day, which is called Lean on Me. And for me, I was in the hospital this past winter for some surgery, and I had to depend on a lot of people. So I was leaning on my brothers and sisters. And so this song has some big meaning. This song was written by Bill Withers, and it was arranged for us by our own Larry Vanderberg in 4 parts. He actually arranged this for our hospice choir in the Adirondacks. And this was part of our large list of songs that we could play. But it was probably the most often selected by the families for us to sing, because it really does have a special meaning. So I think it's appropriate that we sing this. This was recorded live just over 2 weeks ago in the sanctuary. It was the first time the choir had been together through this whole COVID thing since last March. So it was really fun to be together. It was fun to do this. I thank my fellow choir members, who we all lean on each other. I thank Lucy, and I also thank Ann Christie for doing the filming. So without further ado, here's Lean on Me.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me. When you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. I just call on me, sister, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm just up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me, call me, call me, call me, call me.
And now, in the words of Barbara Hamilton Hallway, thank you, from the book Lifting Our Voices, Readings in the Living Tradition, number 203. Go now in peace, deeply regard each other, truly listen to each other, speak what each must speak, be ready in every moment to disarm your own heart. Rejoice in this love you have begun. Amen. Once I was a sentimental thing, threw my heart away each spring. Now a spring romance hasn't got a chance. Promise my first dance to winter. All I've got to show's a splinter for my little fling. Spring this year has got me feeling like a horse that never left the post. I lie in my room, staring up at the ceiling. Spring can really hang you up the most. Morning's kiss wakes trees and flowers, and to them I'd like to drink a toast. I walk in the park just to kill lonely hours. Spring can really hang you up the most. All afternoon those birds twitter twit. I know the tune. This is love, this is it. Heard it before, and I know the score, and I've decided that spring is born. seem sure around the new year. Now it's April, love is just a ghost. Spring arrived on time, only what became of you, dear? Spring can really hang you up the most. Spring can really hang you up the most. Spring is here, there's no mistaking. Robins building nests from coast to coast. My heart tries to sing, so they won't hear it breaking. Spring can really hang you up the most. College boys are writing sonnets in the tender passion they're engrossed. But I'm on the shelf with last year's Easter bonnets. Spring can really hang you up the most. Love came my way, I hoped it would last. We had our day, now it's all in the past. Spring came along, a season of song for us we promise, but something went wrong. Doctors once prescribed a tonic, sulfur and molasses was the dose. Didn't help a bit, my condition must be chronic. Spring can really hang you up the most. All alone, the party's over. Old Man Winter was a gracious host. But when you keep praying for snow to hide the clover, spring can really hang you up the most.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you for all your gifts to CVUUS. This service is certainly a testament to the joy and love which you have brought to our worship through the choir. Thanks to Eric Bremser-Meyer for his technical expertise, and thank you to Lucy